You're listening to Middle Age Movie Reviews.
Hello, welcome to the Middle Age Movies Podcast. Three guys saying the only time you should start worrying about a soldier is when they stop bitching. My name is Tim, and my podcasting partners are
Major Matt,
Realm Master Rick,
and joining us tonight, a man who could take anything you dish out because he's twice the man you are. From the MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channel, it's True Knowledge himself, Jeff S. How's it going, Jeff?
Oh, it's wonderful to be back here, sir.
Oh, always love having you among us. Also joining us tonight, a man who might be your best friend, and you don't even know it. From the Andreas, the Pop Culture Guy presents and the MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channels, it's Andreas. Say hello, Andreas.
Yes, I'm back. I went AWOL, folks, and they captured me, Matt and Tim, for this podcast.
You did. We found you on that island, and we snatched you up. All right, Rick, why don't you tell us what military training film we are watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching the 1998 movie, The Thin Red Line, number 919 from a book of 1,001 movies you should watch before you die. Written by James Jones, Terrance Malick, directed by Terrance Malick, and starring Jim Caviezel, Sean Penn, and Nick Nolte.
Thanks, Rick. You know, The Thin Red Line is a title that really doesn't tell me what is going on. I wonder, Rick, could you have a better title?
I got an awesome anime title for you guys. I thought about this long and hard. There's a lot going on in this movie, so I tried to bundle it together in a more dynamic and poetic fashion in reflection of this movie. I would say Hill 210 of Guadalcanal, the line that divides the sane from the mad and the living from the dead, is thin and red.
Ooh, I like that one, dude. Very nicely done.
You were bringing your A game.
Yeah.
Hey.
This may be your finest moment, Rick.
All right. All right,
gentlemen. Well, now that Rick has told us this eloquent title to this film, I would love to know, Andreas, when was the first time you seen A Thin Red Line?
Okay, awesome. I think it's more passing in TV, mostly. I wasn't familiar with Terrance Malick, the director, but I see his one film, Tree of Life. That's the only film I saw from Terrance Malick. I think I saw bits of The Thin Red Line TV. It's kind of weird. Every time we get a similar film with similar premise, it's like you know that right away. And 1998 is no different. This movie, The Thin Red Line and Saving Private Ryan. Like, I knew Saving Private Ryan, and then every time the subject of movies like this comes up, it's like, have you seen The Thin Red Line? There's a similar movie like, this movie, pairing with Saving Private Ryan, despite these two movies are different. So today was, my first time just fully watching the full movie. And if you're expecting this like intense and like propaganda film like Saving Private Ryan, right? It's not that kind of movie, it's more deep about, the human condition and the effects of what the war can do to you as a soldier / human. And, I'm very excited to talk about this film.
Nice. How about you, Tim? When was the first time you saw A Thin Red Line?
The first time I seen this movie definitely was a Blockbuster night. I know I watched it on a VHS tape. Probably not seen it since then. We picked it out for this podcast. I went to find it among my collection, and I looked, and I was like, I don't have this one. So I had to go seek it out again, and then I kind of remembered why. But we'll get into that later. So, yeah, one time, one done. Second, this is it. This is my second viewing, and never seen it at the theater. So there you go.
Gotcha. How about you, Jeff? When was the first time you saw A Thin Red Line?
Oh, maybe on HBO, probably in 98 or 99. And I would have been 16 or something like that, 17. I don't know. It's a long movie. And it kind of drags a little bit.
A bit?
Yeah.
I'll agree with you there.
It has some entertaining aspects to it. I certainly appreciate the depiction of what it was like to take over those islands over by Japan. I think that's a fight that's worth a film.
Yeah.
I value that aspect of it. It's a very artsy,
Yeah.
World War II movie. You know what I'm saying? It definitely was a worthwhile watch. I'll say that. I was never bored watching it, even though it got it got really long. I was with it and engaged with the film and all that. But yeah, I'd say probably whenever it came out on HBO in '98, is probably when I saw the film for the first time.
Gotcha. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that was the same thing.
I can't remember how long it used to take for movies to come out in the theater back then, and then come out on HBO after that. You know what I mean? I can't remember what that timetable was like.
Yeah.
Forever, it seemed like. I felt like it was months.
It was like a year to like 14 months before it finally hit the old HBO.
Yeah, unless it sucked. And then it was like 6.
Well, how about you, Rick? When was the first time you saw A Thin Red Line?
So for me, the first time I watched this one was 10 or 15 years ago. I was kind of going through like a movie binge phase, and I seen a lot of more movies. I was really getting into like Enemy at the Gates and stuff like that, A Few Good Men, and all those type of movies. And I came across this one, and I think I probably rented it or something like that. I remember it being super cool. I remember really liking it. And since then, this was the only other time that I've seen it. I am really, really, really excited to talk about this one. I got a lot to say, so I can't wait for us to get into it. What about you, Matt? When have you seen this first time?
Thanks for asking me, Rick. I love how you segued that right up for me. Honestly, 1998 is a really weird year for me because that's when I graduated college. So there was a lot of movies that I had not seen because I was, cramming for finals and everything. And this movie fell underneath my radar, much like a Spitfire running low on the water. I never heard about this movie until probably the late 2000s. I never watched it. It never appealed to me, which is weird because I do like some World War II films. I'm a bit of a history buff in a way, but I've never watched this movie. It like completely slipped past my radar. So for this podcast, I was looking forward to watching a riveting World War II film because we covered so many Vietnam War movies that it's nice to actually see something of the Pacific theater. But I have to say I was a little bit disappointed, and I'll get more into that later. But yes, first time watch for this podcast. So Tim, as our resident captain, what are you going to request for the synopsis tonight?
All right, Matt. So tonight I'm going to make it a little easy for you since this film has such a diverse cast and it kind of goes a little bit all over the place to some degree. So I think tonight I would like you to read the synopsis in the form of a letter written home by one of the soldiers from Charlie Company. Now it can be any soldier. I don't care. As you're kind of famous for. It can be a New Yorker with an Irish accent, an Irish person with an Irish accent, a Scot with an Irish accent, maybe a Midwestern person with an Irish accent, however you'd like to go about it. But, you pick the person that you like to emulate in this and, we'll sit back and enjoy.
I might have a request. Can you do a New York person trying to do an Irish person trying to have a Chicago accent while actually doing an Irish accent? Can you do that?
I'd like to add to that. And then that person's trying to pretend like they don't have an accent at all and sound American.
It sounds like a bit of a stretch, but I'll see what I can do.
Man, I can't wait to hear it.
Maybe he might even be from like, Jamaica or something too,
Hey, what you think about?
No, I think Matt should do is impersonate Nick Nolte. I think he could do it.
I don't think I can get the veins in my neck to stick out as much.
Oh,
yeah, he's not gravelly enough either. I think he's got to have some gravel in there.
Yeah, you got to be like real hoarse.
Yeah.
Like.
You're probably going to get closer tonight, Andreas, than Matt would with your cough you got going on and sore throat.
All right, here we go, guys. My best Irish, not Irish, Chicago Irish accent. October 11th, 1942. My dear wife, for 5 days, we have been stuck in the hold of this boat, heading to Grand Guadalcanal. Men packed like sardines, smelling of sweat and fear, desperate to get out while simultaneously dreading the end of the voyage. You can cut the tension with a knife. Fear and anxiety, waiting to be expelled on shores culminating in a desperate gambit of personal survival. Rumors spread amongst the company about the brutality of the fighting and the bloodbath that awaits us. But command says we must take this island if we are to gain a foothold on the Japanese expansion. I fear the outcome as I observed trouble signs of things to come. Rumors of the Lieutenant Colonel Tall using this as his opportunity for advancement, vowing to stop at nothing to achieve success. But how can I survive these shores? How do I find my way back to you? Shazam.
Jesus.
That range! Look at that range! Encore! Encore! Yeah.
You know, it was about as confusing as the voiceovers of this movie. So yeah, you were on point. On point. I salute you, sir.
Thank you.
The Academy Award for Best Actor goes to
Middle-aged Matt. There we go. Yes. But now I have to say, Matt, with that stellar performance, we still have to see how you stack up against the trailer. So if you would, sir, roll it.
In this world, a man himself is nothing. And there ain't no world but this one.
I seen another world. Sometimes I think it was just my imagination.
If I go first, I'll wait for you there. On the other side of the dark waters. Why should I be afraid to die? I belong to you.
We're going straight up that hill, then. How many men do you think it's worth? How many lives?
There's nowhere we can hide. Except in each other.
I killed a man. Worst thing you can do. Nobody can touch me for it.
Make no difference who you are. No matter how much training you got, how tough a guy you might be, you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, you're gonna get it.
I want you to attack right now, with every man at your disposal.
I've lived with these men, sir, for 2.5 years, and I will not order them all to their deaths.
Maybe all men got one big soul everybody's a part of. All faces of the same man. What's your name?
What difference you think you can make, one single man, in all this madness?
You're just too soft-hearted. You're not tough-fibered enough.
Have you ever had anyone die in your arms, sir?
Who lit this flame in us? Because I have you, nothing can touch me. No hurt, no grief, not even death.
I gotta say, I feel that trailer is a little misrepresenting of what this movie is. I feel like they really tried to make it look like an almost action-packed war film, and this is anything but that. It is seriously misleading, in my opinion.
I think it was pretty good. Yeah.
I got the opposite effect. I don't feel like it was action packed enough. It feels like it was much like the movie, a lot more emotional in the trailer.
For me, I like the music they used towards the end. That's from the movie. I don't know. It's kind of funny. They should have used the one in the soundtrack that a lot of people know of that made the film more intense for people to know that this is a war movie. I don't know. It's really tough to like really advertise this movie because it's not a tense action war movie and it's emotional kind of movie at the same time. Like it's so weird. It's such an odd war movie compared to others we've seen before, you know?
It is. I think the thing about this movie, I don't think it's odd necessarily. I think that it's more true to nature. And I think, unfortunately, the type of war movies we typically get are filled with war propaganda.
Yes.
And this one is contrary to that. It actually showcases what the people fighting the war, type of shit they're actually going through.
Yes.
What they're going through in their head, in their lives, in their heart, and in their mind.
Whoa, that was poetic.
Just like the movie, baby.
I mean, I don't know, Matt. It's okay. It fairly conveys the gist of the film, I think. I think it's a pretty fair trailer. I think Andres is onto something when he says that this is like a different take on like a World War II film. You know, I don't know if odd is the right word or whatever, but it's a different take.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I feel like it's less of a war film and it's more of an art house movie. I mean, when I watched this thing, I felt like the only thing that was missing at the beginning was the thin red line for your consideration. It just feels like all I'm trying to do is figure out how to win awards with this film.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really how I felt this film was going. It just, I mean, I could see some of what Rick says in it, and there is an essence of that. But I think you're trying to say, oh, the other movies cover up the horrors of war. And I'll admit, like some of the early ones, I mean, you go to some of the early World War II films, like The Longest Day with John Wayne. That's definitely a super patriotic look at war. That's, you know, that's meant to inspire the American people and everything that we did there. But if you want to get down to the nitty gritties of the horrors of war, this movie isn't it. The same movie that came, or another World War II movie that came out the same year, it's Saving Private Ryan. That is the horror war. Nothing's ever going to beat that Normandy Beach invasion. I mean, if that doesn't bring home the horrors of war, nothing does. I have never seen anything like it before or since, as in the way that was presented. I think as true as it could be, the horrors of that war. And now, and I'll add to that the war that we fought in Germany was decisively different than the war that we'll end up fighting in the Pacific. The approach to war from the Germans to the Japanese is greatly different. The Japanese approach was far more fanatical. Again, I know the SS was fanatical, but that was a small segment where the entire Japanese military was very fanatical to the emperor. And I feel like I can say this because I had a family friend who fought in World War II. And he fought in both theaters. And what he endured over there was far worse than what they endured in Germany. And I've seen photographs that he brought back from that war when he was in the Pacific. It's stuff I don't even want to share here. I mean, it's just these guys, it changed them fundamentally and made them absolutely savage. I think you have to take that into account when you're watching this. And I think that this film misses some of those beats because a lot of the things the Japanese is there was no surrender. I mean, there were islands that we took where, like, I remember one distinctly, one guy surrendered. Every other Japanese person on the island either died in battle or starvation or because they basically committed hara-kiri by, you know, charging people after they were out of ammunition, or they literally killed themselves so they wouldn't be captured. They were like that fanatical. So that is why the Pacific theater was so much worse than the European theater to a degree.
Yeah, that's probably has to do with the way of the Bushido. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Culture was dishonorable to get captured. So
absolutely,
the honorable thing to do is if you were going to get captured. In fact, capturing someone was dishonorable if you didn't allow them to take their own life and keep their honor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, for them at that moment in time, looking at the way that we fought, we were the fucking savages.
And they were lied to, too. The Japanese soldiers, they were lied to. They were told that if they got captured by Americans, that they'd be tortured and killed and starved. And,
right.
Yeah.
You know, the American propaganda back then was at its peak in terms of the same shit that, you know, the Germans did the same thing with their soldiers. They lied about that shit, too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't get captured by the Americans, you know?
Right.
But in reality, a lot of them came here as prisoners of war, ended up staying here, you know, and starting families here and shit like that after their time here, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when your alternative is to get captured by the Soviets who treat you like you're less than human, we seem like the better option no matter what you've been told. So I agree with you on that, Jeff. And to your point too, there is a thing where, I mean, the Japanese didn't understand the way we fought. We didn't understand the way the Japanese fought. And one of the things that we did that they just couldn't even wrap their heads around is we introduced the shotgun into combat. And you see a couple of those wandering around here. This is why the shotgun, you can no longer use it in combat because it's against the Geneva Convention, because the Japanese had that, you know, that standing order where you'll fix bayonets and charge. And that's the way they fought, you know, by overwhelming numbers. And so the way the Americans decided that they were going to counter that is they got these shotguns out that could decimate, you know, like several men at one time and inflict massive casualties and massive wounds that would just mess with their heads. it's just a dishonorable weapon in their mind. So it was a game changer.
That was the last war that I think that they used 12 gauge shotguns openly in warfare. That was the last stage that we did that.
Right.
'Cause in Vietnam, they didn't use shotguns. I know
Oh,
that.
they did, because that was a police action. So they were allowed to use them there because it technically wasn't a war. So they used them, even though it was kind of technically against the Geneva Convention, since we never officially declared war, they used them.
You never see any footage of anybody over there in Vietnam using a shotgun, though, you know?
Tunnel rats would carry them. Those are 45s.
Yeah, I'm sure tunnel rats would use them.
Well, let's be honest. There are conventions of warfare that ought to be followed, but
Yeah.
they're not being followed, man.
No.
That's true.
And I'm so glad we're doing this film because of that. I talked to Tim probably about a month ago or something. I'm like, yo, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world. So I'm glad we're doing this film. It's a war film, and it really takes a look at the mind of the soldier. And I'm glad.
I do think it captures that well, and I'm anxious to get into that. It captures that mentality better than any other film. We see a lot of cohesion and things where, you know, we got to watch the guy that's next to us while he watches our back, and we're going to try to work as a cohesive unit. There's always a little bickering back and forth, but you never see the breakdown of the individual. And do we ever get to see that in this one? And I think that it was well represented here.
Yeah.
Well, since we kind of tiptoed around it all, let's go ahead and dive into the story. It's November 1942. The United States Army Private Witt goes AWOL from his unit to live among the carefree Melanesian natives in the South Pacific. He is found and imprisoned by a troop ship by First Sergeant Welsh of his company. Witt is not allowed to rejoin his unit and is instead punitively assigned to act as a stretcher bearer for the upcoming campaign. Now, what I find quite interesting is that unlike most war movies, this movie opens up and we see like all these artistic shots. This part of the film I felt was just, it's a very slow start, and I'm expecting something to happen. But no, we see Witt walking around this village and just interacting with these Aborigines, and I'm expecting something to happen, like a bomb to drop or just something to drive the story. But nothing really happens until you see a cruiser boat go by. And I just felt like I want something more. It felt like an art film right off the bat.
I don't know. It's a real slow roll for a World War II film. You want to come right in and sort of establish a certain pace right off the bat, almost. Kind of just ride that, throughout the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This, intro that's inserted in there with Jim Caviezel is weird. I don't know. It's I would use the term like artsy, I guess, right? Do I believe that soldiers used to go AWOL like that and shit like that and everything? Yeah, I believe that shit. Fuck yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that seems legitimate to me, Those were different times back then. You know what I mean? Long time ago, man. I guess I just say that it's not exactly what you're, typically going to expect from like a Pacific World War II themed film. I don't think that it really aids the rest of the story that much or like accentuates anything. I don't feel like, there's a big connection there personally. It certainly sets the pace.
It definitely starts a slow pace. I'll admit that.
Yeah, I mean, what is it, like a 10-minute section? It's a substantial, little chunk of film.
Gotta go with what Jeff says. I mean, it drags. This beginning just drags. Again, I feel like I'm watching some kind of art house film. It's almost excruciating. I at one point, I'm just kind of like, I think I could just read the book faster than this is getting into any kind of plot or storyline of this film. It's a 500-page book, way quicker than this. And I almost wanted to opt to do that. And I lay a lot of that on Terrance Malick, because you're taking a guy who's known, this guy is known to make artsy fartsy films. So when he's making this kind of film, this is what you have to expect. When there's action going on, he's going to show you a bird or a leaf or a sunset or a flower or something weird. That's what this guy does.
Crocodile going into the water?
Yeah. Right off the bat, even that, you're like, what's this got to do with anything? I don't know. Actors love this guy. They know his work. And this guy made a couple films like in 1973, 1978, and disappears off the face of the earth until like 1998. And they coax him to come back and make this film. And all these actors are just foaming at the mouth to come and be part of this because he makes these artsy films that they want to be part of. I mean, one, because I think they truly enjoy what he's doing. And I get it. It's high art. Even though I'm not a fan of art house, artsy fartsy films, I can appreciate what they are. I can appreciate the people who appreciate that kind of thing. I'm a popcorn, movie guy. That's just who I am. Sometimes in something like this where people are like, this is the greatest war film ever. No, I don't think so. Okay. I mean, there are really good war films. This is taking a book and he kind of makes, his own interpretation loosely based off of it. In fact, even the main character is not the main character. I mean, it's supposed to be actually Corporal Fife, who's played by Adrian Brody, who's supposed to be the main character. And he shows up at the theater for the premiere thinking he's like the star of this film, and he's almost got nothing. And, they took him off. And the ironic part is the first cut of this film was like 4.5 hours. 4.5 hours, guys. Can you imagine if we had to sit through that? And they pared it down to this, and he just tossed a bunch of stuff on there. Took 2 years to edit this thing. Got into a huge fight with the producers, the whole deal. So he made an art house war film. If you're coming in to wanting to watch a war film, this is not it. This just isn't. And it just takes forever to get there.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that I did notice, and it kind of gets a circular reference later on in the film, we get to see these Melanesian people, and Private Witt, asks them, well, how come these kids aren't fighting? The kids, everybody's getting together really, it's almost like harmony and almost like a sense that there's nothing in the outside world is touching them. And I think that that's kind of a look at to how war affects people, because later on when we see other Melanesian people, they're the complete opposite. They're not getting along with each other. They're bickering and arguing. And I just think that this is a nice little way to set that up, to see the juxtaposition between those two. But I didn't realize that until well after I watched the film. It definitely was a slog just starting this movie off.
And I find it weird that you've got the United States Navy randomly stopping islands to pick up deserters. Oh, we know there's 2 guys over here. Let's make a pit stop and pick up 2 guys so we could take them to Guadalcanal. That seemed like a weird concept to me too, that they would go out of their way to do such a thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't even establish how he went AWOL. I mean, he was just on this island. I mean, how did he get there?
Right.
That would have been nice to establish.
I don't think any war movie I've seen so far has shown a soldier leaving his post or position in the war. Sometimes you see characters trying to get out, before the awful attack, like Platoon. Some of the soldiers tried to fake their illness or they get hurt all of a sudden because they don't want to be part of this attack. I like that this week opens up with a soldier being AWOL and other soldier we don't know. We don't get back to him at all. But I do agree with Matt that I want to know why he became AWOL, especially because his character, the Passion of Christ actor, here, he's sort of the main character of this film. We begin with him and then we end with him, him dying towards the end of the movie. We'll get into.
Oh, well, you gave it away now, Andreas. We can just quit. Good night, everybody.
Yes. Have a good night, everyone. We just gave you the greatest, shortest pod at all time.
But don't worry. He'll come back in 3 days.
That's so wrong.
That was a different movie. My bad.
God, please, no. Don't make me laugh. But yeah, you think, okay, he's our main character. But then when you look at this film, throughout the film, it's we partially follow him. So this opening is why we need this shot. It could have been better when you get to the next section, Matt. When we see the bolts of the.
Well, hold on a second. I could go ahead and explain to you guys what's going on. I think it's easy to miss, but this movie really speaks to me. I am an avid student of human behavior. So a lot of the symbolism I definitely picked up right away, but I could definitely see how it's easy to miss. This is clearly an introspection and reflection into the nature of man. Unfettered, unabetted by corruption and conflict. This is what man is like in its natural form. Once you start adding different layers of conflict to it, then, like Matt said, that's when you get the other tribe where people are arguing, houses are getting burned down and there's graveyards inside the tribe and stuff like that. So this is peace. There's a reason why, Andreas, that our main protagonist here is going AWOL, and that's because he is experiencing life as it should be. He is at peace. He doesn't give a shit about going back to anywhere because he is actually in the moment. That is exactly what he's doing. where most war movies really focus on the facts of who, what, where, and when with a bunch of action involved. This one really is, like I said, it's a deep introspection into why, how, and who on a interpersonal level. And it really speaks to the idea that many cultures around the world have, aside from Western cultures, that there really is no such thing as original sin. Man isn't corrupted on birth. It's something that happens. So I think that this is the contrast, what we get here from what we will be seeing when the soldiers hit the beach.
So this is the happy moment where everyone's going, woo!
Yes, woo!
No, Rick. I think you're on point what this movie is about, and I get that. That's the whole point of Terrance Malick. Like, it's like he really dives into the human nature, like how these characters are like uncorrupt or like like they're not phased about what's going on around them. You know, like I seen Tree of Life. It explores similar themes, but differently. Of course, it's more about like the family and evolution and all that. And I think I see the New World that is like very similar to like the Thin Red Line, but differently. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. I totally get that. I'm just saying that this is like a midpoint with Terrance Malick's career because his first two movies were very straightforward, like linear like construct films, and like at least you get by them. This one's like, okay, he's halfway there, like Tree of Life, like, okay, no one's talking, and it's just all shots of nature and like imagery, and like no one's like half the film. But then this way still has the the traditional filmmaking, like okay, plot. It just it's very like disjointed, but for like, but it's actually like it's disjointed for like a reason why. It's not like because the movie is really bad. It's disjointed because they just went like completely out of nowhere with their movie. It makes sense because he's trying to show the different minds of our soldier during this battle, like in this island. I'm fine with. I always like these type of movies. I mean, I see other movies that have done this and it's been successful. So, I mean, Platoon kind of has that a little bit differently. Of course, we're still with Charlie Sheen, but then, get back to him here. I explain why I seen Platoon, but that's a great war movie. But, I think this opening is good. It's just, set your expectation low, want to come, cause again, this is a different type of war movie we're dealing with. And I have to confess, I really appreciate that Tim brought up the history. I'm not really familiar about this part of World War II, the islands, this part of the history. I only know D-Day and more of the European wars that we were kind of discussing, at the beginning of this pod, that I'm more familiar with. And unfortunately, when I was in school, we barely covered like the major stuff in our class in history.
It's pretty common. I mean, a lot of history classes did focus more on, Germany because they were the major influence. It was the Pacific that tended to get a lot of, not as much coverage, I will say, in a lot of history classes.
Well, I think it gets coverage, but the coverage is dropping the bomb.
Yeah.
Because it was such a monumental thing in this theater that the rest of it almost gets glossed over because like we defeated Germany and then we had to drop a bomb to finish Japan off. But it's much longer than that, but that's almost how it's presented. It's like they kind of talk about the whole start with, and there's a big portion of Hitler and the rise of Germany, and then we defeat them, and then there's these Japanese guys we dropped the bomb on, and then the war is over. Yeah, so I think that's not surprising that's kind of a big white space for you, Andreas.
Yeah. I just wanted to be upfront about that.
You're not alone, so don't feel bad.
Yeah.
But I'll recommend, like Rick said, if you want to know about it, go watch The Pacific.
Yeah.
Because that actually, the whole beginning first disc covers Guadalcanal and everything going forward from there. So if you really want to know about it, that's a good place. If you don't want to read the history books, that is, to watch a show about it that'll help fill some of those gaps for you.
I'll check my PBS if they have documentaries. I will support my educational.
There you go.
Channel.
I'm sure any library will probably be able to get it for you.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've kind of talking about fighting in the Pacific, let's go ahead and dive further into the film. Following month, the Men of the Sea Company, 1st Battalion, 27th Infantry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division have been brought to the island of Guadalcanal as reinforcements in the campaign to secure Henderson Field, seize the island from the Japanese, and block off their route to Australia. C Company is commanded by Captain James Staros. As they wait in the hold of the Navy transport ship, they contemplate their lives and the upcoming invasion. What I thought was kind of neat about this scene and how they're kind of contemplating what's going to happen is we get to see like a full plethora of actors and just stars that we recognize today. Like James Staros, I recognized him right off the bat from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie as he played Casey Jones. But then he's also like on one of those CSI, SVU, Law and Order shows. I recognize the guy, but he looks so much younger. And Adrian Brody, so much younger. It's neat to see these famous actors. And, we also get everyone's favorite Vincent Vega, aka John Travolta.
I'm distracted by John Travolta in it, honestly. As I'm distracted by many of the actors that show up just randomly for almost no apparent reason, like Woody Harrelson and John Cusack and George Clooney and stuff. I mean, they're using the boat scene, one, to represent the men down in the hold kind of going stir crazy. And I think that's true to form. I mean, a lot of times in those transport, those guys are tossed in the hold, not allowed to wander around. So they're just sitting down there, sweating, contemplating what's about to come, don't have a lot of information because a lot of times it's pretty much get in the boat and you don't need to know where you're going until we need to tell you where you're going. That's all you need to know is that you're getting on a boat and you're going somewhere. That's a rough way to go. But then you get this weird interaction between Nick Nolte and John Travolta, which I guess is mainly to set up the whole thing with Nick Nolte where his character has been passed over again and again for promotion from lieutenant colonel to full colonel. And so he's going to get this opportunity to participate in this, help push this over the edge and secure the airfield, which is going to be a huge boon to the American military because they need this airfield, one, to stop the Japanese expansion and the potential invasion of Australia, but two, it gives them a foothold to fly their planes basically 1,000 miles, I think. Either way, they now have a dominant area in which to use as a springboard into their invasion into the Japanese empire, if you will. It's still kind of weird because you've got Travolta, who just seems to be spewing out randomly odd things, and it allows Nick Nolte to kind of agree with him. And then, he gets to have his little voiceover. It's like, I've been passed over, blah, blah, blah. Look at this guy. And he doesn't really know what it's like, but I got to do this because this is my ticket because I've sacrificed for, my family and myself to get here. And this is going to push me over the top to get that full command, the bird on my collar, finally.
And I thought that part was really cool too, Tim, that John Travolta's character actually was talking shit about lieutenant colonels who had that plan. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught that. That was like, you get to hear Lieutenant Colonel Tall's whole idea, like you just said. And then John Travolta's like, yeah, fuck those people who are just trying to make their eagle. They don't have their mind straight. Like he's literally reading that motherfucker's mind. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a book.
Well, not that, but he's like, but not you. I mean, a man of your age still being here. You're here because you want to be, not because you want to make full colonel, and he's kind of like, I hate you. I just hate you so much.
But he's right though. Travolta's character's on point, dude, because we get to see what Lieutenant Colonel Tall's orders are like.
Right.
And they are not good, man.
No, because he's just basically like, this is what needs to happen. And you're going to make sure that happens. Come hell or high water, no matter what the cost. This is what you need to do to basically, I think there's an undertone of if you want that bird on your collar, this is what you need to do because this is what America needs to have happen. So you make this happen.
Yeah. I thought that this part of the movie was really, really cool. Like Tim said, it gives everyone an idea of really what these people are thinking about as they are on the precipice of war, of a major battle. In fact, Private Train is fucking freaking out, going absolutely crazy. He's spreading dissent and morale issues across the entire fucking ship. He has that breakdown in the bathroom and everyone leaves the bathroom like, yeah, man, we're all going to fucking die, and it's people like Private Witt that actually have this very, very different perspective on war in that, a singular person can make a difference. And I think we do see that he does because of his unwavering confidence that everything's going to be all right. Whether he lives or dies, it's all fucking good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. What about you, Jeff?
Well, I mean, it's very brief. We don't get a lot of exposure with the characters. A little bit of Sean Penn and Caviezel. Everything's very brief, at this point in the film. I guess it's like an okay introduction, I guess, to like some of the characters. They're not, it's not enough to like really establish them, but, really enough. Then they're on the boats. They're on land and, there's no defense, on the beach. They just go right on land and go right on the island, so I mean, nothing really happened. I guess you can say that, the film does have like an ensemble cast of sorts, can talk about, how much screen time some of these big name actors in the film actually get. Like, John C. Reilly's in the movie, but he's barely in it.
Like Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. Same thing with, Adrian Brody. Having their names up there, like, right up front for the film is kind of, a little bit, dubious, honestly.
I think it's deceitful because they put these guys, they plastered their names on the front of the cover, and they've got the propaganda with all their faces on it too, showing up. It should have been just cameos. That shouldn't require them to be front and center like that. It was them trying to pull people into this film using star power that's not really there.
I don't want to spoil too much at the end, but I can't help but feel bad for George Clooney because, he got a pretty big bill on there, but he only shows up for 30 seconds, just long enough to make a speech.
I was surprised in that trailer you just show up when George Clooney popped up. I was like, whoa. Like, you have to understand that, he was so big at that time. George Clooney was so big because of ER and he was starting to become a movie star, slowly towards the end of the 90s.
I don't know. I think George Clooney peaked when he was in Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
He was peak when he did Batman and Robin. I think that was
whoa. Flag on the play.
Well, and did you guys, I found John Travolta's character being the general to be off-putting too, especially when you put him against Nick Nolte. He seems way too young to be a brigadier general. I mean, I'm sorry, but he did not look like he should have been in that ranking yet.
I think that was intentional though, to really kind of showcase the whole mentality of the character of Lieutenant Colonel Tall.
I agree.
He was thinking who the fuck is this little fucking bitch? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To tell me this shit. I think that really was a good idea.
It was a purposeful contrast. I get what you're saying, and I agree that's why they did it, but it just felt off-putting to me.
Well, to be fair though, in real life, that has happened. I mean, there's top people that you think they should be older, with all the experience, but somehow these younger guys, people get the top positions. I'm like, how the hell you do that?
Nepotism.
I agree with you, Andreas, but I think if you really put this war in perspective, we're coming off of World War I. We're not that far out from that. So most of your generals that we're going to have during World War II are going to be veterans of World War I, and they're not going to be young. They're going to be older. Coming in later wars, when we get to Vietnam and things like that, I agree that happens a lot more. I think you're more on the money there, but not during World War II, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Tim, about that. I think with this situation, the contrast between Travolta and Nick Nolte's character particularly, and you just have to disregard, that's not how it happened during World War II, that this young guy could be the top lieutenant, whatever his rank was. I think it's just a movie thing, because Travolta was big and, they got him for that one scene,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so that's the problem with that. This movie, a lot of World War, or in general, war movies are completely ensemble cast. And so it's always going to have a big cast and you recognize some of this. And I was not surprised so many people want to work with Terrance Malick. As Tim said before, I think, he was a highly regarded director. I mean, he helped define some of the actors' careers, Charlie Sheen's father. He worked with Terrance Malick, and that was a big push to his career. So yeah, it makes sense he wanted to be part of this because it will push your career. And it did with the different kind of people. The guy with the Passion of Christ actor, he said before that without this movie, his career could have been where it is at because of this movie, All
right. So the company then lands on Guadalcanal, unopposed, which I think is a huge contrast to that other film, Saving Private Ryan, because we see something similar with this these boats just show up to the shore, doors drop down, and everyone comes running out. I'm expecting to see some big explosion or everything, but we don't have that. And I think it's an interesting contradiction to what we were seeing in the other film, because they are unopposed going off the beach. They march into the interior of the island, and along the way they encounter natives and evidence of ongoing Japanese presence. The company soon finds its objective, the Hill 210, a key enemy position. The attack commenced at dawn the next day, and Charlie Company storms up the hill, but is immediately repelled by heavy machine gun fire. One group, a squad led by Sergeant Keck, hides behind a knoll safe from the enemy fire to await reinforcements. When they are fired upon, Heck reaches for a grenade on his belt and accidentally pulls the pin, then throws himself back on the grenade so that he will be the only one killed by the blast. So I felt bad because, again, we have another great actor. We have Woody Harrelson, and he dies like 15 minutes into the movie. Well, 15 minutes into a scene. And I'm like, oh, come on. It was such a cool actor, and yet he goes out like this, blowing his
goes out like a bitch.
Yeah. And when he's dying, the one guy like whispers something in his ear, and he's like, wipe it off, wipe it off. What is he referring to? Did he like get crap on his face or something?
I'm assuming maybe it's some of his ass.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's the only thing I can think of, honestly, is that he's got some chunks of himself on his face.
But yeah, it was just crazy because, we see them coming through the glade on the knoll and see the grass. And I mean, it looks very picturesque. And then all of a sudden just hell opens up and there's firing weapons everywhere. Machine guns are going off. And this is actually a cool, exciting part where you can actually feel the tension building as they're trying to take this hill. This is where the movie, I think, kind of really kicks in.
Yeah, man, this was pretty cool. Obviously, for most people who get into a war movie, this is what they're probably looking for. And there was a number of parts that lead up to this as well as within this that I thought were really, really cool. Like Tim kind of pointed at the Pacific Theater really having much more, I don't want to say the word violent because it's really not violent. It's like,
brutal.
Brutal. Yeah. Brutal is the word. I mean, because you get to see a little bit of the mutilation at the hands of the Japanese soldiers when they're first trekking in and they see the soldiers have their legs cut off and stuff like that. And that really does a number on the soldiers who are walking into this. They're just like, oh my God, what the fuck are we getting into here? You also get something reoccurring throughout the entire probably first couple hours of the movie where they're talking about not having water. I mean, they're in the middle of the fucking Pacific Ocean and these dudes are like actually starting to dehydrate. And it's not just the Americans, by the way. I think it's pretty clear that the Japanese soldiers, as we start to see them more and more, that they're more than just dehydrated, literally starving, it looks like. But the American soldiers, their captain is talking to the lieutenant, being like, a lieutenant colonel, being like, hey man, the water's an issue. And his response is, the only time to worry about a soldier is when they stop bitching. It's like, shit, dude, like this guy is like balls to the wall. He don't want to hear nothing. He just wants fucking results, man.
Yeah.
You don't really see that. That is not something you really see, like that type of mentality. Like, nah, fuck the soldiers. They're just numbers. And you keep getting that from Lieutenant Colonel. He really doesn't give a shit about them. He just wants the results. He doesn't care how many people have to die. And he even says it outright. Something else that he did, which was really cool because Lieutenant Colonel, he kind of does get the mind of the soldier to some extent. He requested an airstrike. I don't know if you guys caught this, but he requested an airstrike and he didn't really know where the fuck the bunkers were. He just fucking dropped a bunch of bombs as a way to shore up morale amongst the troops. Like if we have a nice fireworks show, then the soldiers will be more willing to just straight up throw their lives at the wall, basically, the wall of bullets coming at them. And I kind of think this is really important. This movie, I think, is really, really important to kind of get our heads wrapped around what potentially is to come if we have some serious incursion coming down the pike here. Because there was a scene where one of the soldiers was like, oh, my stomach hurt. And Sergeant Edwards, who was like, like, what the fuck? But it's like that type of move is kind of fucked up because was everyone going to do that now? You know what I'm saying? Like that's a serious, serious issue in war when someone is getting nervous on the very moments before an incursion. Yes, everyone's fucking feeling that. Every fucking one is feeling that. I worry nowadays, young people who, I got anxiety. Dude, everyone has anxiety for a lot of different stuff, man. Your anxiety it's real. I understand that you're feeling it, but everyone else is feeling it. You gotta fucking man up. You have to man up. And I think that this is really, really, really important.
Well, so to your point on this, if I can really kind of throw a theory in, the reason that he did that wasn't just to, oh, well, let this poor guy go back then. These guys are moments away from engaging the enemy. And this guy is just carrying on like that. You can't have the rest of the men see this. It's gonna become a contagion. It's gonna catch with the rest of them.
Yeah.
You have to get him, if he's gonna whine and be that much of a bitch about it, it's better to just put him in the rear so the other men don't see this, so that you can try to, steal their resolve to what they're about to do. But if they're watching this guy cry and he's pretending to throw up and feel sick and whining and crying, it's going to demoralize and it's going to just feed into the fear that's already there. That's why they did it, not to give this guy an out, but to ensure that the rest of the men didn't follow suit. That's my feel on it.
Yeah. I'm going to parallel running here. So, if you have one person in a pack that's running and he's complaining and whining the entire time, it's going to bring everybody else down that's trying to put in that marathon.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to touch a little bit too, going back to what you said, Matt, about the landing itself. They get on the island and it's uncontested. And I think this is a big factor in the difference again between the German theater and the Japanese theater. The German theater, what do they do? It's all landlocked. Europe is one big landmass. So they create the Atlantic Wall, a huge reinforcement of bunkers and guns and all kinds of stuff to repel any kind of invasion on the beaches, which is what we see during the beginning of Saving Private Ryan. The opposite of that is the Japanese, where they don't have that luxury because most of what they've taken is an island chain. So it's not landlocked. The supply lines are sketchy at best. So a lot of times, whatever you get dropped off with is what you have to work with. And, as far as Guadalcanal, it's dense jungle, it's rugged mountains and deep swamps. It's nothing but hell to try to deal with. There's not a lot of fresh water and there's not a lot of ways to reinforce this. So the Japanese instead goes, let them come onto the beach. Let them come to us. We will use the natural surroundings and we will create bunkers within that. So they used the terrain towards their advantage, built the bunkers into those, and then they just wait because they know, okay, now we got the high ground. We've got crossing zones of fire. We can see fairly well. So it's going to be a meat grind. They're going to have to fight for every inch of ground to get to us. So that was their plan, and it worked very well. And to Rick's point, they've only got so much water and food, and they got to ration this as we start to come into an island. We're blocking off any more supply. So now they had a lot of fighters. I don't think they had a lot of probably cargo planes and transports and things like that. They're not even getting airdrops a whole lot. It's really whatever's getting dropped off. So these guys are starving. I mean, we'll see that later on. They're starving. They're dehydrated. With all the swamps and stuff, there's malaria everywhere. These guys have already had a lot of problems just sitting and waiting for us to show up. The operation is to bombard the hell out of the islands before you send your men onto shore. So now we're going to just blast the island nonstop. I don't know if they did that in Guadalcanal. I can't say that for sure. But that was usually how they operated. If they had the boats, a couple battleships within, range that could do such a thing, or an aircraft carrier that they could have bombers come off of, or a base, which is why they wanted this one, because if they could take this airfield, now they can have bombers that could fly to the other islands and offer support. I think that's why you see when they arrive on shore, they're just uncontested. There's nobody there to stop because the Japanese are just like, we will wait and they will eventually find their way to us and then we will take care of the problem.
Like Obi-Wan, they had the high ground.
Yes.
And I looked it up just now, and apparently, yes, the cruisers and the destroyers, they did bomb the shit out of the island before the troops were dropped off. So yeah, and I think you're right. That was just generally standard practice to try to weaken the forces as much as they could before the American troops landed.
Or just demoralizing.
Sure.
I mean, if you're getting bombed for 3-4 days straight, that takes a hell of a toll. No sleep, no food, no water, no peace. Yeah, these guys are in bad shape.
I think that made them fight a little harder too, because when they saw the American soldiers creeping through the grass, they seemed to like really start waylaying with their machine guns and everything and throwing down to the point where you just see soldiers falling over left and right. I think the one thing that kind of stands out is Sean Penn's character runs up there and the medic's already been hit, but he manages to get to the medic, grab the morphine, leaves it for that one soldier and just leaves him there and then runs back. I just thought, okay, yeah, this is definitely a demoralizing situation. And I can understand where that kind of drives our Captain Staros to do what he does. And I'll get to that in a moment. Andreas, what do you think?
This section is like my favorite part of the movie because this is where like the action kind of kicks in. Like this is where the story it feels more lively. There's a target like protection that the soldiers need to do. And that's something that this movie barely has. It's so captivating because you're seeing each actor doing their A game and Woody Harrelson's character. I was really sad that we let him go. But come on, you accidentally pull the grenade. I can't believe it. I totally forgot that that's how he died. Very shame he died because I thought he was really great.
Woody Harrelson, blowing off his ass. What a waste, man. Hey, I guess that needed to happen. Why? I don't know. I don't know how often guys ever did that to themselves. I mean, like, I'm sure it probably has happened before, don't get me wrong. Too bad it had to happen to Woody. He was doing good, too. He was moving the guys right down the field and shit, So, yeah, that was kind of disappointing. Big loss right off the bat. People are going to die. You're talking about the Pacific Theater.
Hey, I was wondering, what was it that Woody Harrelson's character was doing with that grenade?
He's fucking with it.
Yeah, he was.
I think he was taking the cotter pin and he was winding the one side of the cotter pin up and he was breaking it off so that he could pull the pins easier on the grenade. He kind of inadvertently, when he went to grab the circle ring of the cotter pin and pulled it out because it came out real super easy. Because normally you got to have a lot of force to pull one of them things. I mean, it's a cotter pin you're pulling. So you got to bend it straight when you're pulling. So that's what he was doing is he was just kind of taking off one side of it to make it easier to basically pull the pin and throw the grenade. The only part I didn't get is normally when you grab the grenade, you hold that spoon, you pull that cotter pin out. Now the grenade's set to go. And when you release it, that spoon basically pops off. There's like a little spring and that pops it. And that's what sets the timer going. And then you throw the grenade. So I don't know how he could have had it hooked where it would have stayed with him. Because normally you take the spoon and you kind of duck it into your belt or your pocket or a loop or something. Feel like when he pulled that pin, that pineapple part of it should have flown off because it kind of should have spooned it off, because it's like just a little hinge that it sits on. So I don't know. He must have had it stuffed into a pocket or something. But to answer your question, that's what he was doing is he was basically manipulating the pin to make it easier to pull.
Well, I was wondering about the spoon myself because when he pulls that pin off by accident, you kind of hear like the sound of something going like ting.
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering if he had it in his belt kind of wrong to hopefully try to grab it faster or easier. And I think that's what it was his undoing because you kind of get that sound effect like it's going away.
Well, he has it on him because that's why he rolls over and jumps onto the ground and it blows up blows out his, his hip and his butt and everything. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he had it hooked on. I just thought that was weird and interesting. But again, for story purposes, they just made it happen that way because most guys have him up front. So
yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Sean Penn. I think this is his best role. I kind of like here. I don't know what else he couldn't do for that guy, like to give him morphine, like it was a lose-lose situation that, he was going to die anyway. So him coming back, was just didn't make sense, I guess.
He mostly did that just to get the guy to ease his suffering because he had a gut shot.
I think they did to ease his suffering, but he did it so the guy would shut up. Because again, how demoralizing is all you guys sitting just back from him listening to this guy scream nonstop. Like that gets into your head too. So if he can morphine this guy up, it'll quiet him down.
Yeah.
Probably allow him to basically, pass by his own hand.
Yeah.
And because he knew he couldn't drag him back.
And it also pretty much gives birth, with this and a couple other instances beforehand, to the first wave of, I guess, insubordination. This is where First Sergeant Edwards says to the captain, like, hey, this shit is fucked up and we are not going to just straight up die. We need to be fucking making plans that make sense kind of thing. Like that was the sentiment. And shit normally goes downhill, but in this case, this type of insubordination, we see it flow uphill. And I thought that was really cool.
Well, I was wondering about the insubordination because Lieutenant Colonel Gordon Tall orders Staros over the field telephone to capture the bunker by frontal assault at whatever cost. Staros, of course, balks back and says, we're not going to follow those orders. We will not commit these men to what he sees as a suicide mission. He's trying to prove to Tall that, hey, we're getting pelted down here. We should do a flanking move to try to take out this bunker. And then Tall just kind of goes back and forth and argues with him and finally says, look, I'm coming down there. If this is not happening while I get down there, it's your ass. A couple other soldiers comes down with him and he's just like walking up and sure enough, everything's all calm when he gets there. And it's like where he's like, well, let's go. Come on. Let's go up that hill. To satiate Staros' idea, they send Private Bell up there, and Private Bell covertly scouts out the summit of the hill by himself and assesses at where the Japanese stronghold is at. He actually uses his grenade correctly and throws it at the machine guns so he can see where the bunker's at. Okay, now we're actually starting to get some movement, we get some understanding.
This was pretty cool, the scenery and stuff like that. I kind of thought that it was kind of interesting and poetic that we get to see the contrast of the before and after with result to war. When they first arrive and when the battle first starts, you can see the flora and fauna of the island in its full entirety, from the snakes to the butterflies and the wild plant life and everything all together. However, after about halfway through, it's a barren wasteland. The grass has been burned down. And it just looks like hell, honestly. And I thought that was really, really cool. It's just more symbolism in there with regard to like not just the landscape, because they had talked about it a little bit with regard to the interperspectives of the individual soldiers in how none of them are going to be the same ever again. And I think that's what the symbolism is really just reinforcing. While the landscape has changed, these people are too, and permanently. And the conversations that we have, it does kind of, to some extent, kind of slow down the action. And I get that for a war movie, that's not usual. You get to see these connections that they have, especially between Private Witt and Sergeant Edwards. This is something that we continually get, the dialogue between the two. And in this particular moment, there's some foreshadowing that hints that there's something going to happen with Private Witt due to the fact that Sergeant Edward has a disbelief in the afterlife. It seems to be pretty telling. And I honestly was watching this and I wrote down my notes, and this is before Andreas had any sort of spoilers about what actually happens with Private Witt.
First off, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was top secret for the character's death.
Loose lips sink ships, soldiers.
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah, it's all good.
This section is my favorite part of the movie. I love the art grid between Nick Nolte's character and Sergeant, I forgot his name.
Captain Staros.
Yeah, Captain Staros. Like, great scene. That's where, like, you see the war, like, I say, debate, taking the risk of, putting all your soldiers on front to take over this bunker is crazy, and I kind of agree with Staros where I get the colonel is trying to win a war, but it's like, why you want to risk so many you're meant to die? And I love that line when Staros say, look, I'm not going to risk my man who I've been with for 2.5 years. I love that line. That's such a good, like showing that, he's with this man and that's why he's a good, captain. But yeah, that scene was really great. I always loved that because, it shows how good Nick Nolte is as an actor and, But yeah, great scene. As Matt said before, the scene is not only a good insight of like how war is and how these men are like controlling the situation, but it's also a great intense action scene of seeing these characters trying to get up to the top of that hill. And the entirety of this film is so fantastic. It's so earthly. And like, I love how they like seeing the random shots of the nature and the animals and the people that live in that island. I like those shots. But just the way, it's just Terrance Malick does a really good job showing how beautiful these beautiful things are. And like, I like this one shot. You see, I think, like a baby bear, I think got hurt during that like trench that was going on with the canyons and whatnot, and like he's trying
Nah,
to.
man. The only bears on islands was in Lost, bro. Polar bears.
I'm so sorry, bird, not bear. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, this is gonna be one of those nights.
No, it's all good, man. I had to say it.
I'm sitting there thinking, did I fall asleep during part of this movie? I don't remember any bear anywhere.
Lost, man. Dharma, bro.
Sorry, that was my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mixed that up with Lost. Every time I see island, I'm like, oh my god, island. Like, god damn it. So sorry. I met the little bird that was on the ground. He got hurt, like one of the wings, I think, like kind of definitely like was injured, and he was unable to fly. That was a really great shot. I always like that shot when we get to that scene. But overall, great scene. Really love it. It's well directed by Terrance Malick, and the performances of some of the actors are really great. I like that scene with the guy who we see, like, he goes crazy and going to the bathroom in that ship. We see him again here, and like it's just like he talks to himself. And he's like not even following his men to the battle. He's like still in that one position, and like he does this like crazy talk and like, I'm still here.
Is that the guy that says this is all about, taking property?
Yeah, taking property. Yeah,
okay.
That's the one I'm talking about, because like it just shows that he's having a mental breakdown basically.
When he's starting to have the breakdown, and the guys are like, we're just going to take your gun now. They took it out of his hand. It was just like, we're going to hang on to this for you, and you go have your breakdown over there, Sarge.
Yeah, like that was one of the most funniest things I ever seen in a film. It's like, yeah, this guy's having a breakdown. It's nothing wrong. It's not you. It's just we're worried about your safety. We don't want to get shot by you.
They don't depict how hot it is enough in this film. You know what I mean? I feel like, that's like one area where they actually did not pull off real authenticity. You know what I'm saying? It's hot there. Now the water's got to be rough. You can't fucking live without water. That shit is no joke. There's one thing I will say is this is not a very gory World War II movie. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of attention that could be paid to how like brutal this island warfare was. Because I mean, honestly, getting shot up and bombed with artillery and everything, with machine guns and everything, getting killed like that is fucking gory. This movie does not go in that direction, really. The acting performances are pretty solid overall. Nick Nolte, say what you want. He's actually pretty damn good in this film. He may be kind of a prick.
Yeah, how about that one line when he's like, you don't ever have to tell me I'm right. We'll just assume it.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, dude. He played a really good asshole.
Yeah. He makes it entertaining. It's off to him. This was probably one of his last good films.
All right. Well, let's go ahead then and move a little further along. Lieutenant Colonel Tall shows up, and he's got a couple guys in tow, and they come up with the idea that they're going to take that bunker out, and it's Privates Wilt, Dole, and Bell that go along with Captain Gaff, played by John Cusack, and they head up the hill. They sneak up to the bunker. Gaff calls in an airstrike, and then they attack the bunker. It's amazing that 6 guys are able to take out this bunker and basically secure the hill. And then everyone else comes up, and they even managed to take several guys prisoner. And I just thought that this was a really cool action sequence. We get to see them actually achieve the goal with very little loss of U.S. soldiers' lives. And they kind of move forward in the film to the point where now Tall has totally gotten more respect for Captain Gaff. And I mean, they even have a whole conversation where he's like, I'm going to put you up for promotion. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And Gaff just says, hey, look, I don't care about that. Our guys need water. Yeah. Well, we'll get some water. Don't worry about it, sir. And he just sits there and he's quiet for like this like 2-minute sequence as Tall is making this whole speech. And finally, to the point where as he's looking at him, Tall just decides, okay, yeah, we're going to send guys back. We're getting some water up here. And sure enough, he does that. I just thought that's kind of like tells you a little bit about the whole relationship between Gaff and Tall, and the fact that Tall cares more for Gaff than a lot of other soldiers. And just, it's kind of almost like this father-son relationship between the two.
Yeah, that was a super good interaction. That was really, really, really telling of the motives of each character and what was really valuable. This is the point where, for me, that I came to the conclusion that Lieutenant Colonel Tall's character didn't give a shit about any of the soldiers. They were numbers. This part of the movie really explores the idea of the value of a dead person, whether there is value or it's just an empty shell and it doesn't fucking matter. You have two sides of a coin here because the lieutenant colonel, they're just numbers. How many people do we have to sacrifice in order to attain the greater good versus the personal experience that everyone has is valuable intrinsically. I thought that was a really cool exchange. I think it was really, really deep right here to accentuate all based around the idea of these soldiers. They're dehydrated and it's a real problem. That being said, I happen to agree with the lieutenant colonel's strong point in that, hey man, we have momentum right now. If we are to chill out and try to get this water, we are going to lose momentum. And then the soldiers will descend into problems with their morale, problems with inner fighting of the troops amongst one another. It would be problematic. So I do agree with the lieutenant colonel in that, hey man, there's a dehydration problem, but that's not the big problem. The big problem right now is that we need to take this fucking hill. We need to take this island. I just don't agree with his lack of empathy for the plight of the individual soldiers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you can definitely see Tall's point, but he needs functioning men. You can't go very far if everyone's dehydrated and tired and can't even hold up their rifles.
And I think part of it is like they had fresh men on the way, you know, they had reinforcements. So let's use up these soldiers like the pawns on a fucking chessboard. Let's use them up while they're still valuable to the army. And if they die, so be it. We've got reinforcements on the way and we got to push forward.
My biggest problem with this movie is I feel there's a real lack of character depth. Because strictly by the time I get to the end of this film, I don't care about any of them, honestly. I just don't. I feel nothing for them. I don't feel attached to them. I don't feel any of that. I feel like they almost skirt the line of being caricatures to some degree. And I think that's done on purpose. And when it comes to Lieutenant Colonel Tall, this breakdown that he has when we get, Captain Staros refusing to follow his orders. He's like, I decline to follow that order. I want to say it's almost to the point that he's doing this as a character that like to just really blow this out of proportion. Now, with that being said, I can't say that 100%. And the reason I say this is because this probably actually does happen. Because I had a buddy who was in Iraq who lost rank because he punched out a commanding officer because they pushed him too far in an incident. And he already didn't like this guy because he said there's never been a mission that guy doesn't like to volunteer his for so he could try to get another rank on his collar. So we know there's ambition by these people. I don't know if this is overly blown out for effect or if this is true to form. If this is like there are guys that are just this reckless in the military. It's hard for me to make that call. I'd like to think not, but maybe true to form because again, the guy who wrote the book was there and this is kind of things he observed. So maybe it was this bad. So I have problems sometimes with that. And then to add to that, to a person in command like that, what's the one thing Nick Nolte, he has that little conversation on the phone one time with somebody. He's like, hey, did you ever read? I can't remember. He's read some kind of Greek literature. And we, at the point, we read it and we read it in Greek or whatever. And I bring that up because when these guys are going to West Point to be trained to be officers, they have two things they have to learn. They have to learn how to command men and they have to learn how to send men to their death. So there is a point where they have to look at them as numbers and not as people. How can I use these pieces to move them towards this objective and win it and then move on to the next one? It's cold. It's heartless. It's not right, but it's war. That's how it is. That's why in the military, there is a line drawn between the enlisted men and the officers. They don't intermix with each other. They just don't. That doesn't happen. And that's because they need to be able to keep that line where these men can make these command decisions to send these men to their death. They have to do it in a very methodical and they can't put emotion into it. They have to look at it as a chessboard and not as human being. And I'm sure it's equally as hard for those guys to do it, but they have to do that. War is such a weird thing, and the command structure to soldiers is such a strange thing too. So it's a really big dynamic that I don't think you can just look at it and go, oh, that guy's a dick because he's just looking to make rank. And he was, but he still, even if he wasn't there to make rank, he's still got to make a decision like, we have to take this hill, and how are we going to do it? I think he has to make some very hard decisions. And that captain, he got too involved with his men. He got close, you know what I mean? So he was having a real hard time. This guy's having a real conflict even before he gets to this point, you know, just in the thoughts that we're getting from him, you know, in the voiceovers. So we know he's having problems with this. To Rick's point, with once we get past Machine Gun Nest and like, okay, we need to rest, we need to get these men water. Zach's characters put in this film just strictly to try to make, you know, Lieutenant Colonel Tall's rantings look even more insane. I mean, that's just, I mean, John Cusack hardly has a damn line. I mean, he's just like, we did men in water. And then he just sits there and stares at him for like a 2-minute tirade to just, I think, try to show the insanity of that character. So I think that is a bit more on the artsy side of things because that was purposefully done. But Lieutenant Colonel Tall's not wrong. Like Rick said, once you've got the initiative, you got to keep going. Yeah, as long as you got the men and you can try to do it, you got to keep pushing, even if they don't have water. Because if you sometimes wait for the ideal circumstance for them to bring that water up and get the men hydrated and stuff, in that time, you're allowing the enemy to regroup and refortify. And you don't want that to happen because now these men are, you know, okay, now they're hydrated, but they're going up against a wall of machine guns that have had time to strategically assert themselves.
Say, you know, the mission is important. Like, we need to stop, you know, as Tim said before, you know, they're at their weakest at this moment. They start a new plan to attack them, you know, right? And so I think, you know, Toll has a good point, Staros, but I think Staros, you know, made a mistake, you know, like to wait because that's very dangerous. You know, it's a shame because I like Staros and like, you know, he cares about his men, but at the same time, like, yeah, I kind of agree with, you know, what Toll's is. The John Cusack character is very interesting. He's definitely the middle man between those two guys. Like, he's similar to Toll's, but he's more like Staros, you know, like, you know, he cares about his man, but he understands like the mission. Like, he's this middle point, what those two are trying to do. And that's all I have to say about this section.
Obviously, relationships and dynamics in the military, like that would happen, of course, you know, in real life. Obviously, there would be situations like that, have disagreements, you know, between different ranked members, you know, the armed forces. I sort of, you know, side with the guy Staros. It seems like he was the guy that was there and knew what was going on. And if he felt like, you know, what the guy, you know, what Nick Nolte wanted him to do was not doable, that he's the one that would know, I side with him. Watching that group take down that whole hill was great. I really enjoyed that.
Well, so after they take the hill, the men, they're given a week's leave. Though they find little joy and the respite in the fighting, the company is standing on guard. Staros is relieved of his command by Tall, who deems him too soft for the pressures of combat and suggests that he apply for reassignment and become a lawyer in the JAG Corps in Washington, D.C. During this time, Bell receives a letter from his wife informing him that she has fallen in love with another man and seeks a divorce. Meanwhile, Whit comes across some locals and notices that they have grown distant and distrustful of outsiders and regularly quarrel with each other. What I liked about this whole point right here is that we had this action high point. Now we get kind of like this lull or this quiet moment, and we get to see how the guys deal with everything that they've just witnessed, what they've been through. And this is the point where, like I had mentioned earlier, when we seen the one tribe when Whit was AWOL, that everyone was like nice and it was serene and everybody was happy. Now we see a similar tribe, but now they're contentious towards each other. They're interbattling. It's kind of neat the juxtaposition between the start of the movie and towards the end of the movie here, where after the effects of all this war that happens. And then before I even go back to you guys, but I do also want to point out that I did not realize that Belle's wife was Eowyn from Lord of the Rings until after I'm like watching. I'm like, she looks familiar.
Yeah, man, she is no man.
Yes. So I was like, sweet, we got a little bit of Lord of the Rings happening here. But no, what did you guys think of this down moment, this emotional beat?
Yeah, man. I mean, the lead up to that was pretty crazy. You get to see this very disoriented action scene that depicts the pretty much the onslaught here. And Tim's totally right. Earlier, he had mentioned that the Japanese soldiers, one, really weren't surrendering, and two, they weren't surrendering because they were told that the Americans were these monsters that would mutilate them if captured. The other thing that this film, I guess I'd say inaccurately did, was kind of portrayed the Japanese soldiers with a more humanistic quality, which is fine, but it's not super representative of what really happened is kind of the problem. Because while some of them did surrender, they surrendered with a grenade.
Yeah.
So that they would blow up the American soldiers. And I chuckle a little bit, but it's not a laughing matter, obviously. It's a serious thing. And we've seen it even in the more contemporary wars where people walk into an American camp or drive a car into an American camp that was loaded with explosives. That is just the nature of war, whether we can call that to be dishonorable or not. It's just the nature of war. I mean, there may be conventions like we mentioned before, but all is fair in love and war. Speaking of love and war, there are two sides of the same coin yet again, because there are no fucking rules, man. And we get to see the hard truth with what you had mentioned, that you've noticed that Miranda Otto playing Marty Bell. Dude, it is very typical nowadays that we see this stuff happening, that a dude is enlist to go into the military service and has a wife or a girlfriend or whatever. And what happens, time and time again, the woman doesn't want to wait. And instead she, gets with someone else. And, I guess I could kind of understand it a little bit, but at the same time, they just need to be drafted the same. I'll be honest. I've kind of wrestled around with this idea for a long time, and women look, everyone gets the right to vote. Everyone needs to get the right to be drafted. That's just plain and simple. I think that's where I'm at with this one. I don't know how you guys feel about whether or not women should be drafted. I don't necessarily think that they should be on the front line or anything like that, but there are capacities that they could fill. They don't have to necessarily be in the front line. They could be doing something else. There's plenty of things to do in the military service. And if men are going to get drafted, women need to get drafted too. It needs to be equal. I mean, that's what feminism is anyways. So I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Well, the comments from Realmaster Rick are solely Realmaster Rick's, and in no regard to the views and expressions of Middle-Aged Movie Reviews podcast.
Hey, I'm just talking about equality, man.
If there are any women out there who disagree with Rick, please feel free to email the show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com.
I'll tell you now, man. Good for those guys back in the day that could just drink straight liquor the way they do in the movie. They're just walking around with like big bottles of liquor, like drinking them, like in water.
Like Johnny Walker Red, yeah.
Yeah, bro, I could not drink like that at all.
Well, did you notice that the reason why they were drinking like that was to forget the horrors they just witnessed?
Yeah.
And they said that no amount of liquor would ever make them forget the shit that just happened.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm just saying, in general, that's crazy that how guys would drink like that and still do. I just can't do it. I could not, just be drinking that from a straight bottle of liquor, putting it up and shit like that. I can't do it. So good for those guys, man. You know what I'm saying? That shit was fucking crazy. They deserve that week off, dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously. Shit. They were sleeping out in the fucking sticks and shit. They deserve that week off.
How about you, Tim? You want to release the Kraken on any of their alcoholism?
No, I just listened to Jeff talking. Like, good for you guys. Cirrhosis liver, you earned it, but no, I know what he's saying, man. I can't drink it like that either. I think my only comment to this is we kind of glossed over the battle. They get to the, basically to the camp just past that machine gun nest. And it just becomes an all out brutal, nonstop running war where there's no front anymore. They're just all intermixed. The Japanese are kind of surrendering, but not really, as Rick points out. Like a lot of them are coming out with grenades and that, or they're losing their minds. Some of them did surrender, just kind of, sit down. Others are they're just as crazy as the sergeant that we seen earlier, back on the American side. Some of them are just delirious. Others are just, bloodthirsty. But I think the one perspective as I see this, and what most people, when they're viewing this, see is the Americans are overrunning this position and they're just gutting these guys down in the backs. But I think what this movie lacks in that area that they should have shown is that fighting their way up to this point is a meat grinder. These guys are fighting for every inch of ground. And it takes them quite a while to get to this point. Having people charge at you with bayonets and gutting your buddy and stuff like that, brutal hand-to-hand combat. By the time they get to this point, the bloodlust is real. It's like Rick said, it's all's fair in love and war. And it's no longer about right or wrong. It's about these are the guys that bled us out every inch of the way here. Now they got what's coming. It's a no holds barred. They're, take no prisoners, even the ones that surrender. Now we're just going to shoot them in the head. These guys are they're savages and they're going to get what they deserve kind of thing. So I think that's the brutality of war, because they just get this bloodlust like these guys will pay, but on the flip side of that, after it's all said and done, now they have to live with what they've done. And that's where some of them are like, you will never be able to unsee what we've seen here. The man I was that started this war will not be the man that goes home.
Well said. Well said.
Well, after this quiet moment, the company is then put back on patrol, up a river under the command of Lieutenant Ban. Witt, along with Corporal Fife and Private Combs, scout upriver and encounter an advancing Japanese column. As they attempt to retreat, Combs is wounded and ultimately drowns attempting to cross the riverbank. Witt draws away the Japanese to buy time for Fife, but he is encircled by one of their squad. The Japanese demand Witt surrender, but he raises his rifle and is killed. His body is buried by his squad mates, including a visibly grieving Sergeant Welsh. The company soon receives a new commander, Captain Bosch. They are relieved of duty and evacuated from Guadalcanal by a waiting LCT. It's a lot I covered there at the end of the film, but basically that kind of brings the entire movie to a close on that. It's an ensemble cast, but we kind of spent more time with Private Witt, and I feel bad because Corporal Fife was like Tim had said in the book supposed to be the main character, but he got maybe like 10 minutes out of the entire movie.
All the characters are kind of, to one extent or another, talking about almost death, like in their inner monologues and stuff like that. A lot of the conversations they're having in those monologues, relates to death. Death permeates a lot of the dialogue, and there's a lot of death in the film. I don't think, it's exceptional or anything like that. The amount of emphasis, with his character. I think they could have probably chopped off like 20 or 30 minutes of that ending and just cut it right off, and made the movie a 2-hour movie, instead of, 2 hours and 40 minutes or 2 hours and 45 minutes or whatever long movie. 250. Yeah. Jesus Christ, bro. Come on now,
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think they probably could have cut this down to like an hour and a half, honestly.
Yeah, no, they could have done more than that. I mean, honestly, after the battle's over, they could have ended it. Everything past that battle, when it's finished, you could just cut off and end the movie right there. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple minutes of showing some of those guys have the breakdown, like the guys sitting next to the crates and throwing the teeth away that he'd been pulling out of the soldiers, stuff like that. But really, I think any normal film, that's where it would have ended. This end part, it's 2 hours and too long. That's what it is to me,
Yeah. It just goes on and on and on and on. And I'm just like, okay, come on, bro. If it was up to me, I would chop off like 30 minutes of that shit. And there's some stuff that just didn't have to happen. I didn't need to see that guy crying and hugging himself and everything in the rain and everything, I didn't need that. It's, of course, it's sad that like sort of quasi main character gets killed. Like that's, depressing, of course, Jim Caviezel's character was pretty much the only character that like you care about in the film. So it's like, so it's, it's sad seeing him go, but how it is in war with the military, there's always somebody there to replace you. You go down, right? The beat goes on. At the end of the day, they got that fucking island. Hey, it's an okay movie. I probably won't ever watch it again, to be honest with you. I won't lie. But, it was an alright watch. I didn't mind it. Like I said, it's just a little overly long.
Yeah. Yeah. I will definitely agree with you there. How about you, Andres? What do you think of the wrap of this movie and what happens to poor Wit, as you've already spoiled the beginning of the episode?
Dang, bro, dang.
It was good to see Strauss, yeah, right? Staros, my bad. Being relieved and become a lawyer in Washington D.C. That was cool. At least he wasn't sending tolls, to use for your talent. I'm sorry, but I just think of her as the wife of Tom Cruise. Like, oh, that, yeah, of him just staring at the Japanese soldier before he makes the move. So he sacrificed himself was really good. It's really well directed. He stares at, he lingers on the surrounding area that he's in because, he does, his fellow command, friend. And that's unique because, he's an AWOL soldier. Like, he's not part of soldiers are, And so I think it's kind of unique. And so it's very sporadic that he dies in the island. This is where, Sean Penn does shine, and so he was very upset that he died. Terrance Malick, it's crazy. Like, Bruce Willis, brought in, free jets for those actors to get to that, Luke Cage, had dinner with Terrance Malick. It's crazy. The legend of this movie is just crazy with the multiple Hollywood actors that want to be part of or just want to. It's not a movie usual thing that you want to see in the war movie. I agree with him. They don't do a lot of So I appreciate how made it to this say if you haven't seen any Terrance Malick film, like I say, Tree of Life or whatever, it's not going to be. So I'm very happy to review this movie with you guys. Remember that I spoiled the death and I bought the bear from the lost. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I would say that I could understand what you guys are saying, that perhaps there's too much falling action here at the end, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. I definitely can understand where you're coming from, and I might actually feel a little bit the same as far as a standard flow of a story, how you have your climax and then your falling action should be pretty rapid, wrap up basically. And perhaps they could have actually done it in such a way that Private Wit's death could have might not have needed that extra scene where, they're on the river and stuff like that. That definitely, there's a very good case, I think, to potentially have it been done when they were making that final assault in the camp at the top of the hill. But I did particularly like basically it was a flash before his eyes of the entirety of his life and what might then be what is the afterlife. I thought that was kind of interesting that there was a little bit of exploration there in what happens when in the last few moments when a person is going to meet their maker, so to speak. So that was pretty cool. I guess maybe you could say that you didn't necessarily need to see in a poetic way that the soldiers were dying. And as a result, at the very, last 10 minutes, you basically didn't see anyone you knew from before. I mean, you saw a little bit of the, inner monologues of those who survived the battle amongst a bunch of people who you'd never seen before. And I think that was intentional so that you could actually see these people, they're nobody you know before because everyone else you knew, they died. And that is the nature of war. Most people are just in a battle such as this, most everyone's going to die, and I think that's important. I think that's important in a different kind of way that it's important when you see Saving Private Ryan and someone who's wearing a helmet gets saved by a sniper shot because they're wearing a helmet. And as soon as they take that fucking thing off and look at it, they get shot in the head. It's the same kind of thing. It's it's a warning to future soldiers to know what you're getting into, I guess. But yeah, That's what I have to say about this last stretch.
All right, cool. Well, gentlemen, that has been The Thin Red Line. Now that we've discussed it, now that we've discussed this film, let's see how it ranks on IMDb. The 1998 film, The Thin Red Line, holds an overall rating of 7.6 out of 10 stars on IMDb based on over 213,000 user votes. The general consensus praises the film as a philosophical, visually stunning, meditative war epic, often noted for its unconventional, poetic approach to the genre rather than the standard action. And poetic, I do have to agree with. Meditative war epic, I don't know. Those three words shouldn't really run together, in my opinion. It's definitely not your normal action film or not your normal war film. But now that I've said all that about IMDb, let's see how it holds up with our rating system. We all have that limited time on this earth. Is it worth taking the 2 hours and 50 minutes to watch this film? What do you say, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it is. It's entertaining enough for at least one good watch.
Okay. All right. How about you, Tim?
I'm still going to stand by my first statement, The Thin Red Line, for your consideration. I feel like this movie, it just lacks any real story arc past the premise of loosely being based on the Battle of Guadalcanal. And it tries to convey messaging about, as Rick points out, the mentality and the thought process of the soldier instead, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But I feel the way that this movie was portrayed in the trailer, I feel like it was kind of a bit of false advertising. If that's the movie you want to make, then present that movie, like this is what it's about. And they could have done that, basically spell out that this is what you're going to see. I feel like it lacks a lot of character development. Because of this, they just decided to throw a bunch of, again, named characters in there to try to get people in the seats, because it was a bad advertising play. I don't think it really has anything to do with character development, I guess, but it just, they use a lot of big names in a way that misrepresented their involvement in the film as well to, again, get butts in the seats, I think. And lastly, I think the director was just more interested in inserting artistic imagery and attempted to, show depth rather than focus on visual storytelling, which, again, if it's an art house film, that's fine, but don't try to present it to me like it's going to be this epic war film, because it's not. For me, this movie is a hard pass. One, because I feel like it was falsely advertised. Two, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not an art house kind of film. I don't care for that. There are people who do. This is the film for them. They should go watch it. But if you just want to watch a good war film, just saying that, you should skip it. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes too long. If you want to know about it, just go read the book. It's 500 pages. You probably get through it faster.
Gotcha. All right. Well, how about you, Andreas? Where does it sit on your death clock? Is this worth taking that time?
It's worth the death clock, definitely, because, it's part of cinema, and, I don't know if you guys know this, but Marty, our boy, the king of gangster films, Marty Scorsese, loves this film, puts this as the second favorite film of the 1990s, and rightly so. It's a very good war movie, artistically well made, has a lot of actors you recognize, and they do very well with the material they get here with Terrance Malick, and they don't phone in, and that's good. They don't phone in their performances. They deliver performances, no matter the big parts or the small parts. They just they're there and doing their job, which is great. And for that, it's worth the death clock. And, I seen Tree of Life. Starting from there, Terrance Malick gets really bad in his next couple movies during the mid 2010s. So from this movie, New World and Tree of Life is kind of like the last good movies. Now, his last good movie came out in 2019. I heard it was a good movie. It was more more constructed and more character-driven movie. But I don't know, something happened after Tree of Life where he just made the same kind of film where it was no plot, no characters to latch to. It was just characters moving around and just like that. So I'm happy that this movie like has a plot I could follow, and like there's some stakes in there, and despite that, there's a little I know to, it's a little bit of artistically. Oh, look at the alligator. Look at the trees. Look at everything. Look at this random bear that I didn't know was.
It's a fucking polar bear, Guadalcanal, bro.
So yeah, it's worth it. It's not gonna be it's not my must rewatchable film. It's not that kind. You have to watch it in a special occasion. And I was very happy that you guys put this in the recording, because it's a really good movie. Enjoy it. So thank you.
Gotcha. All right. Well, before I give my death clock, I just want to say that any listeners, if you want to write in and tell me how many times Andreas says the tree of life, I will willingly send you a T-shirt from Middle Age Movie Reviews podcast. I swear that's the only words he's used this entire podcast is the tree of life. Do you like the movie The Tree of Life, Andreas?
Well, I saw it in is it high school? Yeah, I saw it in my high school. It was just this one scene that cracked me up when, I don't know, Brad Pitt, by the way, Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain are in the movie. I don't know, she did something that the boys turn against the dad, and then he grabs her and it's like, you turned them against me. And you need to see that full movie. It's been so long. I remember Tree of Life. It was like, that was where because it was in 2011, and that movie became it was one of those movies that got talked about so much in that year. And I was like, okay, what's the big deal? And it was in my class, whatever, I think it was like English or whatever. You saw the movie. I was like, oh, this is the movie they talked about. And I was like, oh, and I totally see who Terrance Malick was. And, this movie wasn't far from it, but by the way, Sean Penn is in that movie too. So, he does come back to work with, Malick. But it's a really good film. Visually, it's the 2001 for art films. That's all I have to say, because, and ironically, there's literally a prologue of dinosaurs, and it's hard to explain it. It's literally that.
My God. You know what? Instead of what Andres is going on about this, I just want somebody to write in a treatment for Operation Polar Bear, where it's an alternate history for the Battle of Guadalcanal, where the United States Army doesn't want to lose a bunch of men, so they just drop 50 angry, hungry polar bears out of Guadalcanal, and they just eat all the Japanese. And maybe Sean Penn's the one that leads it, he's the commander, and the polar bears eat him too. You'll get some bonus points for that.
I would watch the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Far more than this movie, because for me, this movie is a no on the death clock. I got it segued back in, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent for Andreas there, but truth be told, I didn't care for this film. This is probably the worst war film I've ever seen. The whole breakup letter from Miranda Otto to Private Bell, that was just the saddest, most depressing thing to ever read or hear about. And I'm like, yeah, I can't stand watching this movie. It's a hard pass. No, I'm going to return this to the library, wrapped around a brick with a note on it that says, just throw this in the trash.
Break your disc.
Yes, Rick. So the tie, it's an even tie. 2 yeses, 2 nos. Where do you stand as our tiebreaker?
All right, you guys. In my opinion, this movie is frankly something that everyone should watch, especially in the times that we have right now, with the turbulence and the threat of war looming overhead in pretty much every continent across multiple nations. I think that it is something that you should seriously be considering watching if you haven't seen at least once, to get some leveled perspective on the base soldier level of what war is like, and what the people who are fighting it might actually be experiencing, and the hardships that they'll be experiencing as well. I mean, even the mortality of it. Yes, you can get the mortality of it from a movie like Saving Private Ryan, but Saving Private Ryan doesn't include the introspective monologues that is found here. You might get characters that you can fall in love with and stuff like that, or at least relate to, but this is something totally different. There's a reason why they say that war oftentimes comes home. And it's through something like this you really get to empathize with the soldier and what they're kind of going through. So with that being said, it is a 3-hour movie. For me, it didn't seem like it. And actually, for me, every moment flowed seamlessly. Time didn't really seem like a thing. It just kind of like meshed together, and it felt really quick for me. This movie did. And I definitely would say that every single person should be watching this at least once. I know that Tim had said that there was a marketing thing. I honestly don't remember any of that. So I've seen the movie like I said, 15 years ago or something like that. Not because I watched the trailer, but because it was a war movie and I was like, yeah, let's check this out. It was cool then. I feel like it's even cooler and more important now.
All right. Well, there we go. 3 yeses and 2 nos. So, well, folks, this is our feedback section. We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us some feedback. You can email our show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com and have your email read right here on the show, or leave a comment on YouTube and Spotify, and we'll discuss it here too. Gentlemen, now that we've watched The Thin Red Line, we've given our opinions, we've said what we said about the Death Clock. What else are you watching? Rick, what are you watching, buddy?
I'm not actually watching anything. Hopefully I'll be watching the back of my eyelids here in a few minutes.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm just like you. I haven't watched anything. I'm looking forward to watching the deep darkness of the back of my eyelids here in a few minutes. How about you?
Unconsciously, not in depth, might I add.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, we're going to be watching Spider Noir on Prime on the Bleeding Edge, like at the end of the month. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, folks, if you're hearing this, it might have already happened, or it will possibly happen depending on how editing goes. But yes, go check out MCU's Bleeding Edge for their review on Spider Noir. How about you, Andreas? Other than Spider Noir and The Thin Red Line, is there anything else that you're watching?
Sure. For me, I need to start watching the Star Wars show. Was it The Mandalorian? Before the movie comes out next week. I haven't.
Wait, you've never seen The Mandalorian?
No. When I joined MCU, that's when I started to watch more of the Star Wars shows. Cause I'm not, I like Star Wars, but it's not my favorite franchise. I'm a more Trekkie. No offense, Star Wars fan.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't even know you anymore, bro. Get the fuck out of here. You heathen. Talking about bears on Guadalcanal, and now you come to say this? How dare you? I'm insulted.
Good, because I'm a Trekkie. All Trekkie fans, join, unite. At least we have civil discussions unlike you guys. It's like, oh my god, The Last Jedi. Oh my god.
Your best captain is fucking gay, bro.
Excuse me, we got multiple diverse captains.
I know they make it seem like he's French, but he speaks with a British accent. What's that about?
It's artistic, in the future.
In the future, French people are British. I'm playing. I love Star Trek too. Everyone in here knows that.
Yeah.
I just would say that Sisko is the best captain, not Picard.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite captain. I like more of the side characters. Spock is my favorite character of the Star Trek universe.
Got it.
Yes. But yeah, that's all I have.
How about you, Tim?
You know what? I've not been watching a whole lot of stuff, but I did go back through the entire Human Target series, which was an old Fox television series based on the DC comic, basically about a former assassin turned kind of bodyguard, private contractor, security expert, and him along with his crew. He's kind of looking for redemption that goes along, and it's kind of almost like what was that TV series on NBC for like an Equalizer kind of situation where when nobody else can help, they track these guys down and they'll kind of get you out of the jam that you're in. It was a pretty good series. It only went on for 2 seasons, but I enjoy it. My wife really loves it. So we ran back through, I think, there's 13 episodes in the second season, and I think maybe 10 on the first season. So there's not a whole lot of episodes to it, which is a shame because it was pretty good, but definitely worth watching if you can find it. I know you can get the first season still on DVD. Second season is really hard to find. So, yeah, good luck on that if you choose to accept this mission and try to go watch that.
Nice. All right. Well, I want to thank Andreas and Jeff for being part of our show tonight. Jeff, can you let our listeners know where you can where they can find your eloquent show?
Oh, of course. Yeah. At the MCU's Bleeding Edge, YouTube channel and podcast.
All right. And Andreas, outside of the MCU show, where can our fine audience hear your stuff?
Yes. So you guys can check out my channel, Andreas Pop Culture Channel Presents. That's where I do all my content on movies, television, or characters that I like into one pot. If you cannot find it, in short, you can also search just Andreas Pop Culture Talk. That's my pod name for my live stream stuff that I title. So you can look at that and you can direct into my channel, Andreas Pop Culture Channel Presents.
Thanks for listening to Middle Age Movie Reviews podcast and our review of The Thin Red Line. We hope you enjoyed it because the only things that are permanent is dying and bad movies. That's it. That's all you got to worry about. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Help us make the MAM community growing strong so we can continue to keep you from wasting your precious death clock on crappy movies.
Thanks, stay cool, and bye, everyone. Also, leave a comment down below. Did you appreciate everything that Andreas said? Yes or no? I, for one, did.
God, I'm so sorry, folks.
You know, Andreas, you really can't spoil a movie that's 30 years old. So.
Yeah, I think you're all right.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
You're totally cool, dude. It's
that.
all good.
Yeah, you guys should know the main character died towards the end.
What?
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you didn't see this movie.
When the lights go down, the big screen gets so bright. I got my favorite beverage, snacks, and my chair feels right. Yeah. Color, silent, black and white. You never know what's on that screen tonight, but you're gonna find out on Middle Age Movie Reviews. Well, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. No, will I like it? Will I like it? You know the death clock. No, it's not rewind.